Jinshi is confident that with his own strength, he can take off Yonkai's head in the blink of an eye. As long as he can kill Yonkai, the green dragon will naturally be useless. Not only that, but he can also get that piece of profound gold. The Golden Cicada Extreme Demon Art is expected to be successful. When the time comes, the strength will exceed the leader, and it is not impossible for him to take charge of the Demon Blood sect. The key point is whether Yonkai is dead or alive. Thinking of this, Jinshi's heart was fierce, and without hesitation, a thin needle-shaped artifact, like a string of hair, broke through the void and shot towards Yonkai. This type of artifact is not significant in terms of single damage, but it is better in concealment. It is best to use for sneak attacks, and although its damage is not strong, it will not be much better if hit by it. After all, the needle-shaped artifacts were shining with a green and black lights, which were obviously poisonous. Seeing those needle-shaped artifacts approaching him, Yonkai took his hand a little bit in a hurry. A purple shield appeared in front of him, and the next moment, the clanging sound came out in front of the void-grade high-rank defense artifacts. Those needles-shaped artifact was unable to break through its defenses, causing effective damage to Yonkai. But it's already enough. Jinshi played this needle-shaped artifact not to do anything to Yonkai, but to attract his attention. The cicada thin wings behind him trembled slightly, and the whole person disappeared from the spot strangely. In a flash, he rushed to Yonkai's side 5 feet away. The speed was so fast that it was amazing. With a grinning and successful smile on his face, Jinshi sneered and said, "Boy, fight with the old man, you are still a little tender." When the voice fell, his own momentum came out. An invisible quagmire formed beside Yonkai, stopping Yonkai's movements. Although the power of Shi is similar, there is more or less differences with other people's Shi. Jinshi's Shi contains a bloody atmosphere, which when wrapped in it, it's like falling into a pool of blood. Not only is it inconvenient to move, the Saint Chi does not work well, there is also a feeling of being overwhelmed by blood and unable to breathe, and the bloody aura penetrates into the body through the pores, which can affect the violence temperament deep inside the cultivator, making his heart unsteady. With Yonkai's move, his eyes became red, his face was extremely difficult, his breathing faintly became rapid, and the Billah standing next to him was even more unbearable, screaming. He fell into Yonkai's arms as soon as she softened. She suffered heavy losses and was unable to fight against others at all. Let alone Jinshi at the third order void return stage. You just broke through the void return stage and you are so defiant, the old man will tell you what the real void return stage is. Jinshi was very proud, and while speaking, he reached out to Yonkai with his only big hand. That hand was scaled all over. It looks terrifying, but it is undeniable that this hand possesses terrifying power. His plan was simple, that was to use his own chi to subdue or kill Yonkai in one fell swoop. After all, last time in Dragon Cave Mountain, he saw with his own eyes that Yonkai only had the third order Saint King realm. Although he has now broken through the void return stage, he certainly has no time to condense his own chi. In other words, the only difference between the Saint King realm is only that the realm cultivation has improved a bit. It has not changed at all. With his own strengths and his shortcomings, Jinshi's idea is undoubtedly correct. Although the idea is good, he could not think that in such a short time. Yonkai's Shi has been achieved, and it is no less than any person who has been immersed in this field for many years. Just when the big hand was about to catch Yonkai, the corner of Yonkai's mouth suddenly picked up, and a sarcastic smile appeared. The panic in his eyes disappeared, replaced by immense composure. Seeing this situation, Jinshi's heart suddenly burst. Subconsciously felt bad, an unprecedented sense of crisis permeated his body. Before he could figure out whether Yonkai was playing a trick or was really winning, a magical power went up and down leisurely from there, not only wrapped himself in it but also swept his chi. Crack. The sound from the depths of the soul changed Jinshi's complexion greatly. When the magical power swept through, he was shocked to find that his own chi was broken every inch and could not continue to maintain. At the same time, the surrounding space seemed to be distorted and changed, giving Jinshi an illusion of being exiled into the void, and what he saw in front of him was also folded and distorted. That kid Yonkai was in front of him just now, but he was far away from him in the blink of an eye. Impossible, Jinshi said in horror, his eyelids convulsed. With his eyesight, it was natural to see that Yonkai had also released his own chi in an instant, and his own chi was actually stronger and more secretive, otherwise it would be impossible to break his own chi. What power is fused in this situation? Why does the space become distorted? The big hand of Jinshi was obviously only 3 inches away from Yonkai, but he could not continue to do it because in his field of vision, Yonkai and his position had changed drastically. The power of Space Force. In Yonkai's chi, the mystery of the power of Space Force has been condensed. Wherever his chi is wrapped, the space will definitely change. This was also realized through the power of Emperor Prestige before he entered the Emperor Garden. The last part of the journey, the last few days of effort, was not wasted in vain. The power of Emperor Prestige forced Yonkai to integrate the power of space into his own chi. Although there were still some incompetences, this fusion of chi with his own supernatural powers is undoubtedly stronger than the general chi. The current situation is the best portrayal. This is the first time that Yonkai has used his own chi to fight against others. He also has great expectations for this. Now it seems that the effect is really impressive. In all fairness, Jinshi is strong and has been famous for many years, and his cultivation level has also reached the 3rd stage of Void Return stage. It is really troublesome to fight, and it must be very troublesome to kill him, not to mention the fact that he is still in this special environment. There is a Bailuo who needs to be taken care of, and the other party also has a helper of the same level. Various restrictions made Yonkai have to show the enemy's weakness, deliberately attracting Jinshi to approach. Faced with the first blow of the Demon Blood Leader, Yonkai sacrificed the Dragon Bone Sword Verdant Sword, which was also planned long ago. The purpose was to let Jinshi relax his vigilance. Sure enough, the other party believed that he was a sought persimmon that he could knead without a keel sword and tool spirit, and he dared to hit him directly. How could Yonkai miss such an opportunity? The figure shook, the power of Space Force rose, and the person had disappeared in place. When he reappeared, he suddenly came to the back of the Jinshi. This is not an illusion of sight caused by too fast speed, but a real teleportation. Within the scope of his own chi, Yonkai can do this. Unfortunately, the range covered by his chi is only less than 30 feet in radius. In other words, he can only perform within this small area to moves instantaneously, but it's also amazing. Jinshi still maintained that rushing posture, and did not recover at all. Yonkai touched his hand, a pitch-black blade-like attack had already taken shape, and with a slight tremor, he shot towards Jinshi like an arrow from the string. Blade of Space. The opponent was in the 3rd order Void Return stage, and Yonkai naturally wouldn't hide his power, and only prepared to kill him with one blow. Space Blade lived up to expectations, and directly opened a crescent-shaped hole in the back of Jinshi, which came out from the other side. Yonkai was not happy, instead he showed a look of surprise. He immediately turned his head to look aside, and saw that a figure appeared in embarrassment on the other side, and it was Jinshi, but at this moment, he was showing a stunned look. Heart palpitations are endless, and his expression is pale, as if his vitality is greatly damaged. And in that place, there was a figure of Jinshi sticking there, a crescent-shaped wound on his back and abdomen, but strangely, no blood came out. Shattered. The figure of the Jinshi actually collapsed and disappeared into nothingness. Jinshan escaped. Yonkai raised his brows, extremely surprised. He just said casually, after all, the old guy's technique was called Golden Cicada Extreme Demon Art, but he didn't expect it could be used to save his life. This secret technique of Jinshi is indeed worth being called Gold Shell. It could be used for escape. Since practicing the Golden Cicada Extreme Demon Art, Jinshi has used this technique to avoid several mortal attacks. Just now when Yonkai's space blade released from his hand, Jinshi instinctively sensed the danger, and immediately used this secret technique, only to save his life. Although this trick is great, it has a lot of restrictions on its use. Don't talk about damaging his own vitality. Once it is used, it can no longer be used with others in a short time. If it were in other places, Jinshi might actually be able to succeed in retreating. But in this ice road, the space is small. Even if he wants to escape, he can't run too far. What made him even more desperate was that when trapped by Yonkai, he was unable to judge the position of the space. He thought that he would be far away from Yonkai, looking for a chance to join forces with the leader to fight against Yonkai, but after he got away, he took a closer look. Yonkai was impressively only less than 10 feet away beside him. Jinshi almost screamed. He had never seen such a strange situation in his life. Interesting. Yonkai grinned with a quirky smile, and increased his control of his own chi. In an instant, the distorted and changing space began to slowly collapse, with Yonkai as the center. Within a radius of 30 meters, wherever in the place surrounded by the chi, a series of small spatial cracks appeared one after another. Those spatial cracks were as thin as a cow's hair. Although they would soon be repaired by the laws of heaven and earth here, they appeared endlessly. Looking at the pale and helpless Jinshi, Yonkai stretched out a hand, and then slowly made a fist, softly yelled, "Hey!" The cracks in the space listened to his orders, and gathered towards the place where the Jinshi was densely packed like countless small snakes, looking shocking. Poor Jinshi of Demon Blood Sect Great Elder, the super-strong Third Order Void Return stage, was forced to such a desperate situation, watching those space cracks from all directions wrapping in, unavoidable. Jinshi's face finally changed and panicked. He quickly shouted, "Wait! Sect Master Yang is merciful." To be continued.